We're breaking down the difference between being rich and being truly wealthy. Earning money is one thing, but growing your wealth to give you financial freedom is something totally different.
We are back in your life, and today we're breaking down the difference between rich and wealthy. Michael, this is our mission in life, isn't it? We see a lot of rich people. We do not see a lot of wealthy people.
100%, James. And we see this a lot with customers coming to us. They want to be wealthy, but they're acting like they're rich. And it's a surefire way to make sure you never get there.
Yeah, the rich vibes is like keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where it's a really easy trap to fall into, right? We've talked about this before. Like you go on Instagram, everyone's living their best life. They're buying cars, going on holidays, buying this, doing that. When really, most of the time, it's debt that's funding that, right? And those people aren't ever going to truly be wealthy. Yep, they'll look rich and they might get to be rich, but fundamentally, they're just never going to hit the wealth status.
Yeah, they're on the treadmill of life and they have to keep running. If they stop running, the whole thing falls apart and nobody wants to go backwards in terms of their lifestyle. Mike, let's break down the difference between wealthy and rich.
Yep.
The first one, rich is income focused.
Yep.
High earners might live paycheck to paycheck with luxurious expenses but have no financial freedom if income stops.
Yeah, 100% right. We all know these people. And a lot of them are professionals, right? So lawyers, doctors, surgeons, they have good paychecks. And I'm not just making it exclusive to them. It is most people. But at the end of the day, if that income stops coming in, they are stuffed, right? Because everything is debt funded. And don't get me wrong, might have a nice house, might have a nice car, might have a great batch. However, you've got to pay for all these things, and none of those are income generating assets.
I did a review with a client yesterday, and he goes to me on the batch slide. He goes, yeah, my wife and I are really keen to buy a batch. And then I realized I had to talk to you, and I've seen the episode you've done in the past around how you hate batches. So we actually talked ourselves out of it before the meeting. And I'm like, well, this makes my life easy. Next point, wealthy is asset focused. So it's about owning income producing assets that cover your lifestyle, whether you work or don't. So this is instead of your salary going into immediate gratification with luxury expenses, wants opposed to needs right now, that you're diverting that into paying down debt, investing into property, investing into shares, growing your wealth, and then those assets get to a point that they can whip back around and give you consistent luxuries for the rest of your life.
Oh, 100%. And, we know what these are: shares, property, funds, businesses, things that generate an income that you can live off. The more passive, the better. I don't think anything's truly passive, but that's the goal.
Another one I like, Mike, is wealth is measured in time. So a lot of people go like, how much do you earn? What's your financial position? What does your asset base look like? But ask yourself, if your income stopped today, how long could you maintain your current lifestyle without it?
Oh, 100%. But that's because, again, one of the things I think we're kind of chasing is that society normalizes debt over wealth, right? Society normalizes putting 50 grand down and debt for a car, absolutely maxing yourself out for a home, putting a holiday on a credit card. All of that is normal. And then when someone tries to do the opposite and turns around and says, oh, I'm going to invest 50 grand into the stock market. Ooh, what are you doing that for, mate?
Yeah. No. Go. You deserve to have something nice. You got to look. Got a lot of things going on. Treat yourself.
Yeah.
The last one is wealth creates choices. Being wealthy means choosing how you spend your time, where you live, and how you support your family without financial stress.
Yeah, and I mean, fundamentally, that is what most people want when they come to us looking for a plan, right? You can boil that down to, a number of different specifics for the person, but fundamentally what they're saying is, I want choices, especially later in life.
For sure.
And we're going to tell you about the actions you can take to get those choices after the break.
Mike and I have taken over 10,000 people through our seminars and webinars. We will come into your business at no cost and run a session, whether you want to be about first home buyers, planning for retirement, KiwiSaver, whatever it might be. If you are interested, click on the show notes below, get in touch. Now, back to the episode.
Now, Jimmy, how about some practical tips for the listeners, how you can stop being rich and start being wealthy?
A big one that we see all the time is people, and I get it, they want to get rich quickly. And you know what? I'd love to be rich quickly. But unfortunately, the most important part and the way to get rich quickly is to play the long game. Wealthy people invest despite market fears. Every year there's something else going on, whether pandemic, trade wars, AI bubbles, whatever it might be. And people go like, I'm going to take this punt because the market's in a great place. But that's not thinking about the right way.
Yeah, and there's two sides to that, right? There's an opportunity that I think I'm going to get rich quick, so I'm going to take it, or the market isn't doing well right now, I'm fearful, I'm going to hold back. Both of those are two sides of the same coin, and you should really be doing the opposite, right? So when the market's overinflated, you're not looking for the get rich quick scheme. You're still looking for long-term fundamental value in the company you're investing in or the asset you're investing in. And on the flip side of that coin, when the market is down and everyone's a bit more nervous to invest, that's when you should be going all in, right? And we're not massive fans of timing the market, but if you just consistently look for value in what you're investing, you should be fine.
Okay, point number 2, Mike, which is the biggest trait of those who get wealthy, is they live below their means. And I might phrase this a different way.
Yeah, this is my favorite one.
They do not say, listen, James, I earn good income. We don't go out for dinners every night. We're not going on luxurious holidays, but all the money disappears. That is pretty much every single person that I talk to. You need to and it's okay to spend money on these things and have fun along the way, obviously. But the biggest thing is knowing where your money is going, having clarity, having a plan, and sticking to that plan, opposed to just, I'm busy with life and I just kind of float in the wind.
Yeah, and I think having the plan is what's going to help people to do this. And we always talk about this, right? You start with the goals, because fundamentally a lot of this is around budgeting if you're living below your means, right? Making sure you have a really tight budget in place and that it is accurate and you're sticking to it. But if you're just setting a budget with no goal, very difficult to stick to, right? Very quickly, living below your means will just become living again. So you got to start with the goals and then you work backwards. And again, we are not saying you cannot go out and have fun with your friends or go to dinner or buy this or do this. What we're saying is start with the goal and work backwards. And if you are spending too much, look for the areas where you can pull that back and start living below your means.
Bang on, Mike. Point number 3 is all about setting goals. If you do not have goals, if you do not have a path, where are you going? How do you even know if you're on track? Let's move on to point number 4, Mike, which is the people who listen to this podcast are going to feel great. They are always learning, those who are wealthy. That financial literacy is a lifelong process. There are always ways you can upskill, always ways you can get better.
Yeah, and this is surprising. Some of the wealthiest people that I know and interact with are still continuously trying to learn. And it is, you kind of think at some point you'd cap out and be like, I got this under control. But honestly, they're not. They are still looking for information on how they can be better, how they can, just eke out a little bit more on their returns. It is a constant thing that they are thinking about.
For sure. Now, you could be great from 1 to 4, but if you do not use 5, you will have a much harder road to wealth. That is taking calculated risks. Mike, this is just along the lines of, I know people who are, for lack of a better term, frugal. They don't spend a lot of money. They are good with savings, but they are not comfortable taking calculated risks. And if you are not comfortable, deploying your capital, getting the benefits of compounding returns over time, it is a much harder journey.
Yeah, you go nowhere, right? Like you can save, but at the end of the day, you're going to be, and we've looked at this, over a few different studies, you inevitably, if you put all your money in cash and do nothing and take no risk, you at least end up 3 times worse off than someone who's taking calculated investments, even if those investments are going average. You know what I mean?
Love a good stat. Now, Mike, this is great to talk about all this theory, but let's kind of build it into some actions.
Yeah.
So we've got 5 actions that you can take away to focus on being a wealthy household instead of a rich household. The first one, Mike, look, it's a bit of a brutal one, but it's 100% true. If I don't see somebody earning a certain level of income, it is pretty much impossible to build a financial plan to get them where they want to get to. So the first point is we got to make some money, because if we don't make some money, we still got to spend some money. We don't have any money left over to invest to grow our wealth.
Yeah, there is a point where at below a certain income level, it does become very difficult to build wealth because you are covering costs. I'm not doubting that for a second, but you've got to double down on how can we get the income coming into the household up as quick as possible, right? And we're not saying go out and start making hemp anklets and selling them at the market. It's how do you double down on your job, your income, making sure you're a valued employee, speaking with your boss, how am I on the right kind of Am I on the right path to get a promotion? What does that mean? You've got to be active about these things. Otherwise, it's very easy to just go in, do the grind, go home and not get anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So point 1 is making money. But if you do not do point 2, it does not matter how much money you make. You have to be good at managing your money. If you do not have a surplus between what you earn and what you spend, you are completely screwed. You need to have a budget. You need to know where your money is going. You don't need to be frugal, but you have to have a clear plan.
Budgets are actually an amazing thing. And again, you don't have to live on chicken, broccoli, rice, be frugal every day of the week. It is just making sure you know where your money is going, you've planned for it. And when you get to that limit of spending that much, you stop there, right? We're not taking from other savings pots, debt to top up your fund pot to keep going.
Yeah, awesome. Action 3 is you have to set goals. We've already spoken about this, but financial planning, growing your wealth is not one size fits all. Not everybody wants the exact same thing. You need to know what you want in the short term, what you want in the long term. Go and get it with a clear plan, step by step, each fortnight with milestones along the way.
And once you've got those goals, you go, what are the risks I need to take to grow my money to hit those goals, right? So what are the investments I'm going to do? At what point do I buy my first home? Do I buy my investment property? Do I buy shares? Do I invest in the markets? All of these things are calculated risks that you need to take at some point. You've got to plan them out and work to get there.
Cool. And the last one is reviewing regularly. So you're going to set a financial plan. You're going to go, I want to be wealthy instead of rich. I've got all these great steps. The big thing here is a financial plan doesn't just start here, finish there, and it's just a linear line, right? You get pay rises, you get made redundant, people get sick, things work out good, things work out badly. You have to be able to change with the plan, review it. The big thing, Mike, which from a financial projections perspective is impossible to include, is by growing your wealth to a certain point, it creates new opportunities.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of go, okay, there's a fork in the road. Which way am I going to go?
And there might be, going from, if we look at property, for example, new builds, going into, starting with new builds, going into commercial, maybe building stuff to develop it. There are a ton of different opportunities that open up once your wealth gets to a certain level.
Great. Okay, so they are all your tips for the difference between rich, those on the treadmill of life, versus those who are wealthy and have options in the future. Much love to Lighthouse Financial for sponsoring this episode. Please subscribe to our channel, give us a review, give us a like, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.